Welcome to another episode of the Banking on Community podcast. Today we have the privilege of speaking with Larissa Davila, the Executive Director of EGBI, which is the Economic Growth Business Incubator here in Austin, Texas. Welcome and nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm super happy to share with you this.
I can't wait to hear what you've got going on in your world.
Thank you.
So EGBI is dedicated to helping emerging and existing businesses, primarily led by historically economically disadvantaged community members of the greater Austin area through education, business plan assistance, and consulting. So let's welcome again Larissa Davila to the Banking on Community podcast. And thanks so much again for taking the time out of your schedule to be a part of the podcast. Larissa, could you maybe begin by sharing your professional journey with us, detailing how your experience led you to the current role as the Executive Director of EGBI?
Of course. Well, I am from Laredo, Texas, and it's a community, most of the industry, the biggest part of the industry in the Texas side is import-export. So they bring manufactured products from Mexico, and one of the biggest manufacturers in the Mexican side, which is Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, was Sony Corporation. Sony, yeah.
Got it.
So I was working with, I would work on the logistics side of Sony when I graduated from college.
Where was college?
College was Texas A&M International, the one in Laredo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What was your degree?
Business.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you went to work for Sony?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And so what was your role at Sony? You were starting to tell us that. What division did you work in, or what areas?
Yeah. So while I was in college, I was working for FedEx Ground, and our biggest client was Sony, because some of it would be sent through LTL, which is pallets, and some of it would be like trailers or small packages, which was where I worked.
Okay, got it.
So when I graduated from college, they hired me as a manager in Sony, the logistics section.
Oh, in the logistics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I started working there, and I was the first hire in 3 years. So they had done a huge reduction. So they reduced the whole the whole office of Sony Logistics, which was like over 50 some people. And I was the first hire that they had in 3 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I was 22 at the time, and a lot of the employees that had been laid off were working for the third party. So they were aiming for that position, and I got it. And so it was a big struggle, because some of my employees were over 40 or 50 years old, and they had worked for Sony for 20 years. So when I started, it was a big struggle.
You're a marked person at first, right? Who's this new person coming in here?
Yeah.
This whippersnapper with a college degree.
Yeah, this little girl. So I did that for about 3 years. The first, I guess, the first 5 months were, as you said, very hard. So I completed 3 years, and it was my birthday. I was turning 25, and someone from Sony told me, Larissa, you already made it. I started working in Sony at the line when I was 18, and now I'm a supervisor. I'm 45, and I can't wait to retire. So your life is going to be here. And I almost had a panic attack.
Somebody telling you that at that age, you're like, what?
So is this the end of the road? Like, am I going to stay here
Am I
forever?
going to do this, the same thing every day for the next 20 years?
Yeah.
You know, I've heard that from some young people today. They think about, like, why would I want to do what you just did for your career? The world's changing.
For me,
a lot of different viewpoints.
Yeah.
About careers and staying with the same company.
And Laredo is a small town.
Yeah.
So I know it's amazing for some people to grow, like born and raised in a town and grow there. And
yeah.
So I think it would have been very successful for me to stay there, but it wasn't for me. So the following day I called in sick, and I ran away to Austin, applied for 1,000 jobs. I got an interview, and I came to Austin. So
awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I started working here.
Why'd you pick Austin?
So I came in 2027 to a South by, and I really enjoyed the vibe. And so I guess I promised myself the next time I would come back would be with my bags, and that's how I got here.
Wow.
Like 3 years later. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You were inspired.
Yeah.
By the entrepreneurial spirit and culture of Austin, or
I just think it was I just it's so different. The environment and the people and everything, it's very different from Laredo. So I couldn't wait, and so that's how I got here.
Awesome.
And when I got here, so I guess growing up for me, it was just my dream to work in corporate America. But when I moved to Austin, I started seeing that a lot of people were starting small businesses.
Yeah.
And so I worked for IBM, for Lone Star, and the last position that I had before becoming a business coach was with Bentoli Agri-Nutrition, that they do animal feed internationally. It's a very big company. It's over $12 million for a family-owned business a year. So I was working there, and on the weekends and nights, I would do volunteer service, and I started seeing a lot of need for people to understand how business work.
Got it.
So working with big corporations, you have a very good understanding of what processes are and what how money flows around the companies. But I would see all these entrepreneurs, and they didn't know how to do it. So while doing volunteer service, my first unpaid client came from Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I'm
so
involved in Habitat for Humanity. I'm on the finance committee for the Austin.
nice. So I like doing everything construction. So I would volunteer there over the weekends.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
That's a
and
neat experience.
it is. I love it. And so that's how I got my first client. So they were like, "Oh, you're bilingual and you know about businesses. Can we go for lunch?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." So she wanted a business plan. And then
So helpful. So much need out there for that.
Yeah.
Just a little push in the right direction is all some of these entrepreneurs around here need.
yeah, absolutely. So I did the first business plan, and 6 months later I had it when my husband was looking at a bank statement, and he goes, "Oh, you had a lot of fun 3 days ago." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Well, you had breakfast at Starbucks, and then you had lunch at Sed's, and then you had another lunch at a Cheesecake Factory, and then you had another coffee at Starbucks the same day." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm helping people." So I like to volunteer, and people have been asking me. So that day I did 4 different businesses that I worked with.
Wow.
And I wasn't charging them. So my husband was, his point was,
He's like, okay, at what point are we going to charge for this?
yeah. So he was like, "I'm not against you helping them. I'm just that if you're helping them with their businesses for life, then why don't you charge at least for the coffee that you're drinking while you're training them?"
Yeah.
And funny thing is that my friend Monica, who now works at EGBI, she's the marketing director. I got together with her, and she was like, "Well, he's not that crazy. I mean, you should start charging." So I guess I sent my first invoice in January, and 8 years passed. And I helped over 500 companies.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I left the corporate America. I opened my own consulting, and with EGBI, which is where I'm now.
And that's EGBI is based here in Austin.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit quickly about how EGBI is organized or formed, or how does that work? So you're the executive director.
Yes.
So you're the ultimate leader of the organization.
Yes.
Got it.
And then Monica, my friend, she's the marketing director.
Got it.
Johnny Foster is our programs director. And then we have coaches that work with the community, and we have a ton of volunteers that help with small business training. So
Nice.
That's how I got to the podcast, because some of the employees from the bank work with us as volunteers, and they're very, very helpful to the community because there's a lot of need.
Yeah. And bankers can help.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We got a unique view on the marketplace and the business cycle development and how, financing and all of that. So that probably is a helpful to have. It's good for us too to be involved in that.
Of course. I think it's a very nurturing ecosystem where everybody benefits and everybody helps a little.
So your community engagement sounds like that's really what drives you.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of a core of who you are. It's just screaming as I'm sitting here talking to you. So can you share with our listeners a little bit how you leverage, the community resources that are available to you? You mentioned some of that, and networks to support the growth and success of small businesses here in the greater Austin area. And then maybe follow up with how important is that local community focus in your strategy there at EGBI?
Yeah, so we have curriculum. We
So you've got curriculum that
Yeah.
you've developed.
Yeah, so it's been
How long's EGBI been around?
about 19 years.
So they've had a long time to develop. They know what works.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so they have curriculum, which is a workshop series, which are 8 weeks or 16 weeks, depending on what the series they're depending on the level the size of the business and how many years have they been in business. So it's a minus 1 or minus 3 years, and then up to 3 years, and then from 3 to 5. So depending on the size and the age of the business, the profit of the percent of profit that they have, it's the training that they go to, and they also can do one-on-one training. So we have 3 business consulting generalists, and then we have 2 specialists, which are in accounting and marketing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you take these businesses through that entire process, and then during that process, are you reaching out to other organizations in the community?
Yes.
I know you mentioned something about you worked with a little bit with some of the people that work at Keystone Bank.
Yeah.
So do you do that across all different disciplines that a business owner might need to employ at some point? And you've got volunteers from different organizations. What
Yeah.
are some of those organizations that you're working with when
Yeah.
you're helping a business?
So we work a lot with the City of Boston and
Okay.
the Economic Development Department,
Got it.
and we also work with City Navigator program, and we work. One of the programs that I like the most is with the Avance women. So
What's
the
it called?
Avance,
Okay.
and so we do the trainings in the morning, and they provide with childcare.
Oh,
So a lot of moms that wouldn't otherwise be able to come to class.
oh, that's good.
We work with them, and we usually don't do startups. So if there's a startup, then we will refer them to either Div Inc. or Capital Factory, or depending where
So you
they-
have tentacles into that community too.
Yeah, we will just refer them.
Yeah.
And for example, we have a list of what the cores are for the bankers. So for example, if someone wants to do whatever is that they want to do, we figure out which bank would be the most appropriate, and we send them to work with them. So
That's nice.
yeah. So sometimes they will get discouraged if they go to a bank and they get declined. So what we do is we try and connect them. So before they have to approach the bank, they already know where and how.
Well, that's a minefield, isn't it?
It could be
So many different banks and so many different viewpoints about banking and what banks will or won't do. And
So yeah, we've been around for some time. So we try and
You know.
have the list ready so that
That's
we
good.
know the specialties of all of them,
Mhm.
and we work with them. And then we also have a lot of volunteers that do websites, they do marketing, they do human resources. So depending on what it is that they need, we work with them. So basically, we're trying to find the obstacles for growth or the bottlenecks that they have, and then we work with those and optimize to make the businesses better.
Do you also have some connections into the capital community? What do any of these businesses that you're helping, do they sometimes need capital?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And where do you go to direct them to how to form capital, how to raise capital? Who do you work with in the community on those things?
So the depending on what they need, we will we usually have. So if they need like a non-traditional lending, or if they're looking for venture capital, depending on what it is, we will figure out what is best for
Who's
them.
plugged into that? So you've got tentacles out there, and you know who to pick up the phone and call to help them, because I know we get calls all the time from customers that are looking for capital.
So for example, for non-traditional, it could be like People Fund or
Oh yeah,
or
Yeah,
even the
very good.
city. They
the
also
city's
have
got some resources
yeah
too.
yeah. So they'll even cover for some of the the city will ask you for an investment on your side,
Mhm.
but they will also provide with so they will match it.
Sort of match.
Yeah, so
That's-
that you
that's
can
nice.
get better loans.
I didn't realize the city had that
Mhm.
resource available. That's good to know.
Yeah. And so I am not aware. I wouldn't be able to tell you if this year, but in previous years they have had it. So it depends on what budget they have
Got it.
and who they're working with, because so they will match what the entrepreneur will put into the lending costs, but then they will have the lender be a
Do the
part
rest of it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, you're clearly passionate about what you do, and you've been doing it for a long time. Could you maybe tell us some success stories, some of your favorite success stories or experiences or memorable experiences that you've had?
Of course. Yeah, we have had so we have the case of one of our clients who was working at a hotel in maintenance, and right now she has more than $1 million business.
Wow.
Yeah. mhm.
Started her own company?
Yeah, she started her own company. So she would work from 6 in the morning to 3. And then from 3 to 5, she would work in her own company. And then at 6, she would go to EGBI to take classes. And so it's been, I think, about 14 years since then.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So did she start the same thing that she was doing for the hotel, or was it a completely different kind of business?
So she says she started working at the hotel because she used to work for a cleaning company that did make readies for UT student apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And so they went bankrupt and they closed the business, and she went to work for the hotel. And she says she knew how to work the make readies, but she didn't know how to sell. So she went to EGBI, she took the classes, and now...
So she started that business back.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And so
So-
she's had it for 14 years.
Yeah. mhm.
That's great.
Yeah, and then we have another client. His name is Spencer, and he was basically couch surfing. So he was homeless, and he went to the program, and now he's one of our sponsors every year. He has a junk collection company, and he has more than, I think, almost 10 employees.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
I love it.
mm-hmm.
Those are great stories.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we have several people that have so they either were working for another company and then they came and developed their businesses with EGBI, or they had just a completely random idea and they worked on it.
I can tell it makes you proud
Yeah,
to talk
it
about
does.
those successes.
Absolutely, yeah.
To see the hard work that you put into it, but not only your hard work, but the hard work of the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not many people are willing to work 2 jobs and then go to coaching at night.
Yeah, and you know what? It's different skills, right? So it's a lot of being very consistent on what you do and having the discipline and all that. So a lot of people are opening businesses and they are very good at what they do, but they don't have the business acumen needed to succeed.
Yeah.
And they don't have nobody to ask, and they don't have the funds to pay for a business consultant, which could be very expensive.
So that leads me right into my next question. How do you differentiate yourself? You mentioned earlier your customer, your success story said, I don't really know how to sell. So how do you sell? How do you position yourself, and how do you differentiate yourself? And what are some of the uniquenesses of your approach that you bring that really sort of cement your standing in this community that's clearly helping people be successful by leveraging your services?
I think we are, so there is no small business. A lot of accelerators have which is great because then they can focus on what they're really good at. And so there's some...
Which is typically scaling an already existing business, right?
Yeah. And what we do is we are open to everybody. So whoever wants to open a business, regardless of their resources, their stage, their business acumen, their language. So we have had people that are coming from Africa, and we have had people that don't speak English or Spanish. They speak French. So they will come with their own interpreter.
Wow.
Or we will figure out a way. So we make an appointment, we get an interpreter, and we help them. So, and we have people from all over. We have restaurants, caterers from Jamaica, from Venezuela, Colombia. We have just all over. So
multicultural.
Very multicultural. So one thing that it's, I guess, something special about EGBI is that we won't have an evaluation process to decide whether you're a good fit for the organization or not. So you come in and we help you develop that.
You don't turn people away.
No, no. So I think that is pretty.
That is special.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses can't say that.
Yeah, and for example, this year we got first place on the list of the Austin Business Journal for business accelerators and incubators.
Nice.
And I think
that's quite an accomplishment.
It is for us. It is for us. We're very proud of it. I'm going to be bragging about it for years to come.
You should. You deserve to.
Yeah. And so the difference between second place and us was more than 300 businesses that we helped in a year. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, so tell me a little bit about how when you're talking to an entrepreneur, what's some of the advice that you give them right out of the gate?
So we try and figure out where they are. A lot of a trick question for business owners is what's the biggest obstacle for a business to grow?
Yeah.
And most of the time is the owner, the head of the company, right?
Yeah.
So what we try and do is we work with them. We try and talk to them and say, okay, do you have a business plan? Yes or no? And no. So if you don't have a business plan, you're going to get to where you want, but you're not going to get as fast, right? So it's like a GPS. You know where you're going, but if you don't have a GPS or a map, then it's going to take you a lot more time and resources to get to where you want.
Do you have any unique advice that you have to give to those from economically disadvantaged communities? Or is it across the board pretty much the same? Doesn't really matter where you came from?
I like to think that everybody has the same. So some of them have more information than the other.
Uh-huh.
So we just have to figure out where
they're at in that scale.
Yeah, and then just work with them to get to where they are.
Well, nice. So with your commitment to the continuous development, how do you keep learning and growing professionally?
Well, that is a big one. We have to stay we have to stay and keep up with all the trends and all the
how do you guys go about doing that for you and your staff?
So we have the support. We have a lot of students that are doing their volunteer service with us. So from UT, from
so you get students in there to come in and help too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A perpetual stream of great free interns.
Yeah. No,
not free.
They're not free. No, we do make sure that they get so we work with either the city of Austin or with Texas Workforce Solutions.
Okay.
And they will so we work with them, so it's like an apprenticeship program.
Nice.
But we do have them do a lot of research. So for example, with artificial intelligence, with what is it that's going on right now that they
seems like there's nothing else going on right now but AI.
Seems like it. Yeah. So at some point, so we have had
that and inflation.
Yeah. What we're doing is we're teaching people that have English as a second language use artificial intelligence to reply to clients. And it sounds more eloquent. And so it makes the communication easier for them. And they're excited about it. So we're going to try and see. We're trying to develop right now the best practices to do it, to make sure that they do have to just not use it because it's there. Just make sure that it's there's a best practice or there's a protocol to use it. But we're doing that, and we work with so that we have the interns researching that information, and we also try and. So we have there's the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the city. So we usually, for example, if there's something that is going on with SCORE, then we will see if we can send one of either our clients or our coaches or interns and go and have the classes. And then when there's anything available, we will send the information to SCORE so that they bring their if there's any volunteers that they want to come to watch our programs and all that. So we try and stay constantly updated.
So is there a national group like you that gets together that has something similar to what you have here with EGBI in other cities around the country?
I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah.
There must be tons of them. Yeah. Most of them, I'm pretty sure they're like, so there's a national organization, NALCAB, and it's for economic displacement. But a lot of the incubators nationwide are members of the organization. And one thing that we're doing differently is that we're working with so we're just developing a program for bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the small business owners, because they have a bookkeeper who does their taxes at the end of the year, they're like, oh, I'm good, I have a bookkeeper, but they still don't understand how to read their financials and use them to their benefit.
Yeah.
So one thing that we're doing is working with
so important. We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know a good accountant?
Yeah.
We hear that an awful lot.
But you know what? Sometimes even the accountants right now, they will get your documents, your bank statements, and they will process your taxes, but they won't actually teach you what they're looking at, how to read it, how to produce it. And one thing that we have been inquiring around and we haven't seen, we see that there's a lot of emphasis on budgeting for personal budgeting, for probably house getting your first house and all that, but there's not a lot of so setups, training, fixes in in nonprofits for actual companies.
Uh-huh.
So that is one thing that I think we're doing different, and we are seeing. So we have been tracking how it's how the businesses are growing, and we can see it was a 3-year-old business, and after they started, they took over their own QuickBooks, so they have their bookkeeper do their financial, their fiscal bookkeeping, but they do their own. We can see that there's an improvement of 2,200% increase in revenue just because now they're reading and they know where the money is now
Wow.
being, but and for people that have been in business for generations, or that they have been in business for all their time, or maybe they went to college and did business, that is like a no-brainer. But for a yoga instructor who never used financials, then it is something that it will be a life changer in
And you're seeing direct benefit for,
Yeah.
for the entrepreneur.
Yeah,
That
of
if they take that time, that their business is going to prosper.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's and it's amazing, and you can see like, how their demeanor changes when they're like, "Oh, I get it now. I get
Yeah.
it." Yeah,
That's
so,
awesome. I
Mhm.
just love your passion for what you do. Tell me, lastly, before we go, I always ask the same question as my last question on every podcast. And what is the best or most worthwhile investment that you've ever made?
I guess in community for me,
Community.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in trying to in trying to help the community, I started doing community service, and it also builds me.
That's awesome. That's a great investment. That's very worthwhile, and it shows your passion and energy and excitement for what you're doing at EGBI shows.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Like,
Wish you nothing but the best of luck. You deserve it.
thank you.
And I'm sure, and your clients are lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Larissa.
Appreciate it.
Have a great one. Thanks for joining Banking on Community from Austin, Texas. Today's episode gave you an aha moment. Would you let us know? We'd love to hear from you. You can come into one of our branches and share with us what you loved about today's conversation, or reach out to us on social media. Community banking is about solving problems, not just for customers, but for neighbors. If you know someone in our community that would benefit from this conversation, please share this podcast with them.